Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Welcome to the Catholic Mama, where you'll learn how to deepen and defend your faith, find comfort as we share the vocation of parenthood, and learn how to raise your children confidently Catholic. I'm your host, Christine Mooney-Flynn. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Catholic Mama podcast. I'm your host, Christine Mooney-Flynn, and thanks for listening. You know, I realize that I usually say welcome back to the Catholic Mama podcast, but this very well could be your first time listening in. So thank you for listening and welcome. And if this is not your first time, well, welcome back. It's always good to see you again. I happen to log into the software that I use to upload all of my podcasts and send them out into the wilds of the internet. And I saw I have already halfway through this month, a little over halfway, 2/3, 3/4. I'm not very good with math. Through this month, I have doubled my listeners over the past month or so. That's amazing. Thank you. Look, I'm talking to a void right now. I don't know if anybody else is my age or grew up watching Clarissa Explains It All on Nickelodeon, which I was only able to watch at my grandparents' because we didn't have cable TV at home. But she would talk and do monologues into the camera, and I always wanted to do that. And I used to pretend. I would stand in the bathroom and talk into the mirror until my brother caught me and made fun of me relentlessly, and that's what older brothers do. So I stopped. This is as close as I'm going to get to living out those childhood dreams of being Clarissa Explains It All. But thank you. So, I don't know. I can't get feedback. This isn't always a conversation unless I have somebody else on conversing with me. But I can tell that people are enjoying what I'm producing and the messages that I'm putting out there by how many people are downloading it. Friends, family members, parish, community members, whoever you think would benefit from listening to the Catholic Mama podcast. Again, the purpose of this show, what I started doing it for, was as a convert and also just joining in on Bible studies at my old parish specifically. I'd hear women say, I don't even know where to start in teaching my kids this stuff. And that's very true. It's difficult to know how to catechize your kids, what's appropriate for them, where do you start? So what I decided to do with this show was start with teaching the parents, because if you are confident in your own faith, then you can raise your children to be confident in their own faith, because mostly you just listen to the kids, right? And they will guide you and they'll ask great questions, and a whole host of other things. So in having each episode, I think about, what would best suit the parents. I'm recording. We moved into this house mid last year, and there's a very nice finished basement where I do the podcast. And I can also hear on the floor above me, small little feet being chased after by 4 furry feet. And I know it's because somebody is eating a piece of bread, because that's the last thing I saw. And that dog is trying to get it. All right. So every episode, I think what would benefit parents, husband and wives, in this vocation of, if you are married or a parent, how best to help you be very confident in your Catholic faith, because we are under siege. I used to be one of those people who would go after or kind of scoff at religion and Catholicism especially, but I'd like to say that I'm susceptible to reason. I learned about what the Catholic faith was all about for real, and the hard shell around my heart cracked just enough to let God in, and then he just burst it wide open. So thank you for joining. All that to say, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, and share away. All right. And also, if you are new or haven't listened in a while, I have a very sweet little baby who I'm carrying at the moment. She is always with Mama at this point in her life. She's only 2 months old, actually 3 months old in just a couple days. So if you hear any weird noises in the background, that is a baby, not me making weird noises into the microphone. Okay. Well, I hope everyone is having a wonderful week, no matter when or where you are listening and what is going on in your lives. I we're coming off of the Christmas season and getting back into homeschooling. We decided this year to go and actually commit to homeschooling. It wasn't something that I had necessarily totally made up my mind to do, but it kind of just fell that way. So I had toyed with the idea of homeschooling our kids when I was still working a full-time office job. And being able to do that did not seem like it was going to be feasible, but I still was really interested in it and did a lot of research and looked into various curriculums and schedules and what people liked or didn't like. And I worked from home either one full day a week or 2 half days a week. And I would try to batch all of my work in the office when I was away from my children. And then when I was at home, we would do activities and things together. And it kind of helped me, even though they were definitely still in the preschool and sometimes early preschool stages. It helped me to figure out exactly what worked for us and what didn't, and what I liked and what I didn't. So but then I converted to Catholicism, and I wanted Roan, my oldest. I thought, I think he would really like to be there. He is a very social person. I think that he'll benefit from this. So we decided to sign up for that. Well, lo and behold, not even before the summer before he would have started school, we moved. And initially when we moved to this area, I didn't find a parochial school that I was really thrilled with. And I also, coming from a very populated area in the northeast part of the country where all the schools went on a wait list within like a week into January for the following school year, I just assumed I didn't have a chance of even if I found a school here, well, they won't have any spots. Well, that's the old northeast part of me thinking, because there were plenty of spots, but as it turned out, I just didn't really find a school associated with any of the churches around in our area that I really felt a pull towards. Now, I've since moved here. I have a better understanding of the area and what schools I may, if ever, put our kids into if we decide to go that route. But it seemed like it was God's way of saying, you're committing yourself to homeschooling this year. So commit I did. And I'm very glad that I did all the research ahead of time over the past couple of years, and also just followed some fellow Catholic homeschoolers online. And as it turned out, about a year ago, I had a bioethicist on the show about how to keep your kids Catholic in college. And she had homeschooled all of her children. And when we found out, and it turns out she lives in where I live. So she was explaining something one day on the podcast or in our conversations before or after. And I was like, I've been to that church. I think I've seen you at church. And sure enough, I was sat a couple of pews behind her in Mass one day when I was out visiting my in-laws in Wisconsin. But now that we were moving to Wisconsin and knowing, entrenched in the homeschooling community here, I emailed her immediately and said, hey, help me. What should I know? Where should we go? And I got a lot of great resources from her as well. So I felt very confident, a little tentative. I should say I was tentatively, a little baby just moved the microphone. I was tentatively confident that I could do homeschooling. And at the very least, my oldest is in kindergarten. And if I mess up kindergarten, it's just kindergarten. Hopefully that's not something that I say 20 years down the line, it was more than just kindergarten. Look how it turned out. I don't know. But as it turned out, my kindergartner actually missed the cutoff for school last year, so he was kind of on the later end or older end of students for this coming year, and that put my daughter, who's 4, as close to being in kindergarten as he would anyway. So I decided to homeschool them both. At the same curriculum. And because I know my kids very well, I can say, my daughter isn't ready for these subjects or these lessons, but my son is. And we've been doing okay. We started homeschooling early, which is one thing I want to talk to you about, early in the school year. We started early, and now that we are getting back into the swing of things after taking 3 weeks off at Christmas, we are on our 20th week of homeschooling. And so that's over halfway through the school year. And I wanted just to kind of sit and talk over a few things that I learned and a few things I would have done differently in this first foray into homeschooling. going to take a sip for a second. Okay. Hopefully that gulp wasn't too loud in the microphone. So one of the things, I just hinted on it, is was doing a lot of research over the past couple of years. Now, homeschooler, as I am this year, for our first time official homeschool, I should say, you could use a kindergarten year as a year to test out different curriculums. I mean, you really aren't going to know if you like a particular curriculum, a style of teaching, until you actually do it, because a lot of them look great on paper. But as I found for myself over the past couple of years and just doing preschool, it was too much. I am a minimalist. I don't like to clutter and fill up too much time. And I found some of these curriculums or activity plans that I was looking into, they required a lot of activities in one given day, a lot of resources, whether that was buying the books, storybooks outright, and buying all the craft supplies, and it seemed like a lot, and it was overwhelming. So I'm very glad that I did all the research ahead of time. Now, over the past couple of years, I realized I like and appreciate the Charlotte Mason curriculum. And it's a very, it seems more of a sophisticated curriculum. It's not filled with a lot of filler. And it goes with its roots in the 19th century. It feels like it still requires a more sophisticated education. The books that we read, even at a kindergarten level, are really interesting to me. They are what's called living books. And these aren't just, made up storybooks with nonsense in it, which is fine, I guess. But these are books that actually teach real substantive things. We just finished reading Charlotte's Web. It was one of our read aloud stories that we spent the last, and we read all of the tales of Peter Rabbit. So these are older tales. Not that all living books need to be older, but a lot of them are by default. They just naturally, that was the style of them when they were being written 100 or so years ago. It was read these books that I think they expected more of children back when they were written. They didn't dumb things down for kids, and they understood that the kids could handle it. And that's one thing that I've noticed, is that I think a lot of the curriculums just kind of dumbed down what the kids were capable of doing. Even, like I said, I am homeschooling a 4-year-old at the kindergarten level. And yes, I have to spend a little bit more time on math. And no, she can't read as well as her slightly older brother can yet. But she is really engaging in a way that I am surprised in a way. And I really shouldn't be, because I have been catechizing the kids in the Catholic faith now for almost 2 years, and have been floored and really amazed at how much they can handle of tough subjects, even at a young age. Children are smart if we get out of their way a lot of the time. And that Charlotte Mason style of curriculum seemed to do just that. It gives more living books, more substantive books, more time spent outside, learning, playing, free time, learning from life. And I really like that approach, because if the kids are home with me during the day, I don't want to be stuck at a table or a desk doing worksheet after worksheet, not really talking, just having them work through some book on their own. I want it to be engaging and interesting for everybody, and really get out in the world as well. Not just be chained to a desk, because I hated that in high school and middle school and elementary school, that, recess was only 15, 20 minutes at a time. And you really just had to sit down for hours and hours a day. So I had done my research ahead of time, and I'm very glad I did. So I had settled on the Charlotte Mason curriculum. But my worry or a concern I had was, how was I going to make sure that I was correct? And I do love to learn, but I wasn't sure exactly how to structure lessons. I've never done that before on a regular basis. And then someone that I follow on Instagram, who is a homeschooler and a Catholic mom, happened to post about, basically, it is a Charlotte Mason inspired curriculum that somebody blended catechesis into. So already, week 1, you cover the resurrection or the birth of Jesus, and you pick a saint story that you want to talk about, and you read this from the Old Testament, and it's just spelled out very simply and very doable. And I know, of course, because I've talked to my kids so much about the Catholic faith, that they'll come up with questions and follow up. And if we want to watch a video on YouTube about a saint, or if we want to read a book or do a craft about that saint, we certainly can do all those things. But I wasn't going to plan for it, and I would just let the kids lead where they wanted to go. But it's called, before I forget, because it's in Latin, Mater Amabilis. I think I'm pronouncing it Mater Amabilis, and I will put a link in the show notes just in case I am butchering that. But it is US/UK. It's been around for what I can tell for quite a while, and they have curriculums for many years. And they have a preschool/kindergarten and on up. So we started with the kindergarten one. The preschool one was even more unstructured, but similar to the kindergarten one, but I wanted some structure in our days and weeks. And, my son is kindergarten age, so I just figured we would go with that. And then if my 4-year-old wanted to stick around and do the lessons, she could. If not, she's feel free to play whenever she was tired of it, because she's just doing preschool. Well, it turns out that she loves to stick around and loves to do this stuff. So I'm glad I did not shortchange her in this. I think it's always good to, you want children and yourself and any goals that you have or anything, not to shoot so low that you are clearly going to hit your mark, but also not feel challenged. And you don't want to set the bar too high that you get frustrated and quit. So you want to be challenged, but successful. And I think we found that, at least for this year, with this curriculum. That too. Number 2, what I want to talk about, the second thing, is not to get overly married to one particular curriculum, but you also don't want to hop around from program to program, curriculum to curriculum. What you'll find anyway is, if you're researching homeschooling, that it can get quite pricey. The resources, whether you are buying a whole curriculum, lessons and all, from, say, Seton, or if you are just collecting a lot of books that aren't available at your local library and you can't find good alternatives, so you're stuck buying all of them, plus school supplies and all that stuff. You don't want to go all in on a program and then get frustrated and quit and leave. So on a program and then get frustrated and quit and leave. So, but you also don't want to get so mired in, I picked this curriculum, I have to do it just this way, that you get really frustrated as well. So you have to strike a balance between those two extremes. And I think we have done that now as we've gone through 20th week, over halfway through. Yes, there's been some weeks that I've had to move some things around, and no, we didn't get everything done. And yes, maybe we'll do a class on a Saturday if the kids are bored and we didn't finish it during the week, a certain lesson during the week. But it's all doable. We only spend, which I really like about this, because there's only 2 children that I'm doing this with. We only spend about an hour and a half to 2 days total, 2 hours a day total on class. And 2 hours might be pushing it, actually. And that also includes built-in breaks. So when the kids start to getting antsy and I can tell they're not paying as much attention, I'm like, all right, break time. And I also like that we can, start later in the day if we need to on some days. And we do a co-op once a week with a bunch of other Catholic families. And the kids get separated out based on their grade, and they're with the kids their own age. They play games that you need more than 2 children to play at home. So they get to have some socialization and some fun things. They do science experiments that I might not want to do at home. They don't mind the mess or something like that. So the curriculum, over time we have changed it around. It's been flexible enough that we're not so stuck in one curriculum and it has to be done just this way, that it feels like we are as restricted as if our children were going to school for 8 hours every single day. So whatever the curriculum is, you want to make sure that it has some leeway for real life and some preference changes, and it's not too overwhelming. You don't want to fill. I would suggest then, what I've learned over the past few years now, is not to start with a bunch of stuff in each day. Start with a minimum. I would say make a schedule and look at it and be like, is that even enough? Are we doing enough? And try that out. If you might find that once you actually do the teaching and your kids are doing the work, that is more than enough. And maybe you want to go outside, or maybe you want to take the kids on a field trip, even if it's just down to the hardware store, and that's enough for the day. Or you might find after a couple of weeks that your children need to be challenged more, they seem a little bored, or they're really interested in this subject. So we'll do maybe an extra lesson and we'll do a deep dive on, I don't know, carpenter ants. And then you just spend time doing that, and you can add stuff in later. I think it's easier to add things in later than to figure out what you need to strip away later on. So I would start small. On some days, we don't do anything. On the Tuesday co-op days, that's it. We don't do any schooling. So at homeschooling, we are only 4 days a week: Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And sometimes it is a very short, like on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday is a play group that the kids go to through our church. We have a very abbreviated lesson plan for later that day, once we've gotten home and had lunch and everything. So, and if, like I found over the years of doing different curriculums, some aren't good for our family, and so we just dropped them. But I gave a fair shake. So again, you want to spend enough time with a curriculum that you give it a fair shake, but you also don't want to get mired in it so much and feel so chained to it that you get frustrated and to the point of wanting to quit. Another lesson that I have learned, which we haven't actually gotten to quit. Another lesson that I have learned, which we haven't actually gotten to get into yet, because this is only our first year, is what I've heard from successful homeschooling families is you take child by child, year by year. So if you have 3 kids and 2 of them are awesome at homeschooling, they love it, and the third one just has a hard time, you guys don't have a great personality, like your personalities just don't jive when it comes to teaching in this manner. They don't want to do the work. They like to sleep in. They need somebody to push them in a different way, or you found that they might listen to strangers teaching them versus you teaching them. I know a lot of parents are like, man, my kid would not listen to me, but somebody else taught it to them and they listened in 2 seconds. Take all that into consideration. You might have a child that has special needs, that needs to be in a school of some kind, of public school even, that has resources that you just don't have access to. And it might change from year to year. You might have a child or parochial school and just not into it. Well, bring them home and try the next year. But you also have to know the laws in your area to be able to do that. We have been very blessed in the fact that when I was considering homeschooling at the beginning, we were living in the state of Pennsylvania, which, as far as I am aware, has very restrictive laws on homeschooling families. You have to meet certain requirements that are quite difficult in some cases. Instead, now we moved to Wisconsin, and we live in an area that has a wonderful and long, great longevity, I should say, a Catholic homeschooling group in the area in particular, and also some pretty relaxed homeschooling laws. So, we don't have to do the standardized testing. And also what's great is I can spend all of kindergarten, possibly messing kindergarten up. I could do first grade, and I could wait 2 full years there before I would have to tell the state of Wisconsin that I'm declaring my child as homeschooled. So it is great with the laws in the state that we live in now that we have that leeway to decide if homeschooling is even right for us, and if it's right for one child but not another, or so on. Okay, 2 more things I wanted to cover. One is we started our homeschooling early on the recommendation of a friend who starts her homeschooling year in July and takes many breaks throughout the year. We decided to do the same thing. I was planning on starting after Labor Day, and then after hearing my friend's reasons for why she starts in July, I was like, I think we could do early. So I got all the curriculum stuff I needed, at least for the first 6 or 8 weeks. And we started homeschooling the first or second week of August. And I got to tell you, when everybody was still just settling into school, it was great. I felt like we had really accomplished something already. We were in a groove. We still got lots of outdoor playing time because it was still summer. And we're taking more of almost a year-round school approach. And I went to year-round school in 5th grade, and I remember the frequent breaks really did help. Teachers weren't as crazy looking forward to the next break. Everybody seemed to be nicer to each other. And the kids were different too. They seemed more willing to learn, knowing that they had a long break coming up. So we took 2 weeks off, I think, after the baby was born. We took 3 weeks off at Christmas. We're going to take a week or 2 off at Easter. And yet, even with all that, we will still be done with our school year. Barring anybody gets the flu and we can't do another week, but we'll be done with our school year by the second week of May. And then we have 2 and, almost 3 full months before we here by the second week of May. And then we have 2 and, almost 3 full months before we would start back up in August. So there's so many breaks in there and chances then to rejuvenate and get excited and see and kind of reflect and see, okay, that didn't really work in the first term. Let's do something exciting or different in the second term. And already, I realized that, I was relying on the co-op to do art and science with my children, but they wanted more. So we've added in a little bit more. Nothing big, just a little bit here and there. And then it also helps when you get those breaks, 2-3 weeks at a time. You can step back and also look to others for inspiration, other homeschooling families for inspiration without feeling like I'm in it now. I can't change. I'm in it, because you've already stepped back. You're on a break. You can get more inspiration and change some things for when you start back up, in a couple of weeks later. And then finally, or thinking about becoming a homeschooling parent, about what you do if you have younger siblings. So I have, 4 children now, 2 of which are being schooled. The third is only 2.5 years old, and she likes to sit at the table with us. We all sit at a table and do our lessons. She likes to sit there for a while. And so a lot of times if the kids are working on a worksheet, I'll just print off an extra one for her. Like, oh, and here's one for you, and here's one for you, Isla. Make her feel like give her a pencil. And she's happy for a little bit. But a lot of times I notice, she would rather destroy what her brother and sister are doing just so they'll pay attention to her. So what do we do? I would suggest, and here's where, looking up toddler activities is a great idea. Doing a Google search on that. Small things, nothing that takes too much time. Edible Play-Doh. You don't want to do anything that's going to, you don't want to do anything that's going to cause such a mess, or you're worried that it's going to cause such a mess that you have to stop the lessons with the older ones to tend to the little one. So I set up a pan of a couple of big beach towels and like a relatively small pan of water, and gave some measuring cups and spoons and let the toddler at it. And she was happy for a long time. Or, on occasion I'll let the younger one play a game on my phone just to, have her play some kind of educational game or something, if we're in dire straits and I really need her to stop bothering everybody. But look up toddler activities for whatever age group, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, whatever. There's so many ideas, and some of them are really, really simple, like using pom-poms to make some kind of game, or stickers. Oh, stickers are great. And a fresh sheet of paper, fresh crayon. Costs are prohibitive because of the resources, but there are a lot of really inexpensive ideas on how to keep toddlers occupied. I'm trying to think, like even getting a bowl and putting a bunch of yellow colored things in it from around the house, things they might not normally see, or red, or fluffy things, or hard things, or sticks and bark and twigs or whatever from outside, leaves. Let them stir that up into a small bucket of water. Whatever it is. There's so many small activities. But also, it could be something as small as buying them, or if your kids are working through a phonics worksheet or something, just print off one for the for the younger one. And then as far as the baby goes, if you're going to be homeschooling with a small baby in the house, hopefully that baby is sleeping a lot. I really pray for you that the baby is sleeping a lot, or at least I have great success with wearing the baby in the Catan sling. If you've never heard of Catan, it's my favorite baby. With wearing the baby in the Catan sling. If you've never heard of Catan, it's my favorite baby wearing sling. It's K''Tan. It's like in a giant infinity scarf, so it's super easy to use and wrap around. And I just, stand up with the baby and sling her, and, just kind of walk around the table as I'm teaching the kids and we're going over something together. So there are plenty of ways to keep younger ones occupied. Now, I am not yet in the position to have to tell you, or be able to tell you, how you handle differing grades If one kid's in third grade, another's in kindergarten, how do you handle the lessons there? I don't know yet. Maybe in a couple of years I can do a second one of these podcasts and let you know how the heck you do that, because I don't know. Hopefully I'll learn. Well, trial by fire. So I know I've talked to a couple of people over the past few months who, when they found out I'm homeschooling, I'm like, oh, really? I'm so interested. I've been thinking about doing that. It's been on my heart. I've been praying about it. I'm not to anything, or the idea has intrigued them because they're a little disenchanted with the way their public schooling has gone, or whatever it is. Check the laws in your state, see what's required. You can always do a kind of trial period during the summer for a couple of weeks and just see how it goes. But do some research. There are blogs out there and websites that compare not only different homeschool curriculums, but also different Catholic homeschool curriculums, and tell you what people liked and what they didn't like about the variety that are there, that's out there. Like I said, I have really enjoyed so far the Mater Amabilis one for our family. But maybe a year from now I'll find that I don't like it. Although I will tell you, I snuck ahead and looked at grade 1, and I'm really excited about it. So I think we're going to stick with this one for a while, at least through next year. Well, I hope it was helpful. If you have somebody that the episode over to them, and I hope it does help. And if you have any questions, I will put a link in the show notes as well that you can click. And if you have been listening for the past few weeks, then you know that my husband joins me for a joint podcast episode together once a week. And if there's a question or a comment, a topic that you would like us to cover or address, click on the link. It'll take you to a Google form, and you can fill that out, and we'll see it, and we'll try to answer those questions and handle those topics as they come in. All right, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of these episodes. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the good news of the Catholic Mama podcast, as I try to share the good news of our wonderful faith and our love of Jesus Christ, consider leaving a very nice review, because it helps boost me in the show, boost the show in the search results. All right, everyone. Until next time. Don't forget to head over to thecatholicmama.com to get your free copy of How to Talk to Your Kids About God. This handy little ebook will teach you how to broach the topic of God with your children, or how to respond to your kids when they want to talk about God, as well as give you answers to 7 of the trickiest questions about the faith that Christian parents face. You'll love the easy to understand grown-up answers, the pared down but not talked down answers you can share with your kids, plus recommended resources if you'd like to deepen your understanding of the topic. Get yours free at thecatholicmama.com.
Hi, everyone. Dr. John Acquaviva here, author, professor of exercise science, and host of Faith in Sport on WCAT Radio. Please join us as we discuss current events in the sports world, bring on inspiring guests, and discuss how our Catholic faith impacts all who are involved in sport, the athletes, the coaches, the referees, and yes, even the fans. So join me, Dr. John Acquaviva, as I discuss my 2 favorite topics, my faith and the world of sport, on the Faith in Sports show here on WCAT Radio.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.